بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So my friends, we said in the beginning, very beginning, that when it comes to tafsir, we have two main traditions in the tafsir. What are they? What do we call them? So which one first? Which one is first and which one is second? Which one is on the right? Naqli, not nuqli. Naqli means textual. Naqli means textual. Yeah, write it down, Rajat. This is because you were not present during this class, so I'm repeating this briefly. So the main one was naqli. Naqli, or some people call it ma'thur. Okay, ma'thur means transmitted. Transmitted means ma'thur. Some people call it athari. However, it has many names, but you get the idea. What does ma'thur means, or naqli, or textual? It means that the person who's writing the tafsir, he doesn't put his own personal opinion. He only puts what he heard either from the Prophet, or the family of the Prophet, or the Imams, or the Sahaba, or the who are after the Sahaba? Tabi'een, second generation. So he doesn't put his opinion. He depends on this contingency. Prophet, Imams, Ahlul Bayt, companions, or the second generation, Tabi'een. This is the meaning of naqli. He listens to them. Let's say they come to this verse, tafsir of this verse, meaning of this verse. So he says, such and such said that the tafsir, the meaning of this verse is such and such and such. This is how the tafsir started. This is how the very first book of tafsir by a man called Mujahid. We studied him earlier. Mujahid is a student of Ibn Abbas. He compiled the very first book of tafsir 1300 years ago. Okay? Based on what he heard from Ibn Abbas, not his personal opinion. And at that time, tafsir would not discuss tafsir yesterday is different from tafsir today. If you take his book and compare it to the tafsirs that are written today, 1300 years later, whether they are written in Arabic or Farsi or Urdu or whatever, you find there is a big shift, a big development. What is the development? What difference you find between the tafsir, the old tafasir and the new ones? How did it grow? What is the development? What is the difference? Can you tell me?
The fact that you were using full text rather than using lahaq.
The second is aqli. But no, even in terms of this, what are the differences between the old tafsirs and the contemporary tafsirs? Forget about this now, aqli. We are still in the naqli, in the ma'thur, the textual. What are the differences?
We're not talking about like fabrication or nothing like that, right?
It has to do with that. One difference, you just alluded to it, one difference is that the old ones, they used to put everything in their books. Everything they heard from tabi'i, from sahabi, they don't verify, without verification. So it is a raw material. raw material. Later on, they started the process of filtration. It has to go through filtration. So if it does not make sense, if it contradicts with the Quran, if the Rawiya, the transmitter, is not reliable, he has a history of lies and fabrications, then they cleanse it. This is one difference. What is the second difference? So write the first difference, Najat. The first difference is that the old tafasir were raw materials. Later on, the contemporary one became more refined and more filtered. That is the first difference. What is the second difference? Ya mu'mineen. Yalla, I want you to use your brain, your intelligence, your memory. Yeah. What is the second difference between yesterday and today?
Could it be that throughout history there were more politics involved and
Definitely. Politics started from day one, in fact. From day one, even the old ones had politics in them. They will say the interpretation of the verse according to his party, his cult, his group, his sultan, his caliph. This is an old business, not something new. An old business. Abu Huraira is an example. Abu Huraira saw the Prophet, but then he twists the hadith. During the time of Muawiyah, he twists the hadith. He changes the hadith because of Prophet. So politics existed even during the time of the Prophet, let alone after his death. The Prophet would say, the Prophet himself, he says, now there are people now in his mosque are fabricating my hadith. They lie against me. I didn't say this, they attribute this to me. Or I said this way, they say it in a different way. They manipulate the hadith. The Prophet said this, so the lies against the Prophet started during his lifetime. During his lifetime. So politics was always there. Yes, what is the second?
So is your point for the Sunni version or for the Shia version?
Both. This is bipartisan. The second difference is that in the old tafasir, we're going to study some of them, take example of maybe 5 or 6 or 7 of them tonight. And the contemporary ones. When I say contemporary, 200 years ago, 300 years, not yesterday, not 2019. Contemporary means 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago. Is that in the old ones, they did not discuss language, adab, literature, or irfan, or theology, or sociology. It was only tafsir of the ayah, without delving into other areas. Are you with me? But now, when you open the tafsir, he speaks about sociology, psychology related to this ayah. He speaks about biology. If the ayah speaks about, let's say, how وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طِينٍ ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاهُ نُطْفَةً فِي قَرَارٍ مَكِينٍ. When he speaks about nutfah, the sperm, how we were transferred into a sperm in our mother's wombs. He speaks about the details of this biology. What is the sperm and how the sperm is fertilized with the egg and how the stages of reproduction. So they speak about everything. Physics. Sometimes tafasir are only about adab, literature. Adab al-Quran. The grammar in the Quran. They are specialized only in the grammar area. So they bring verses from the Quran to speak about adab, grammar and literature. Other tafasir are only ahkam. They are not related to others. Only they focus on the verdicts in the Quran, the ahkam, the rulings, the fiqh. Others are about philosophy and irfan. They speak about the irfan in the Quran. So this is a specialized tafsir. Another type, they speak about history in the Quran. Another type, they speak about stories in the Quran, parables in the Quran, the stories of Anbiya, only the stories of Anbiya, nothing else. These things came later on, not in the beginning. In the beginning, tafsir means only the meaning of the ayah, basic meaning of the ayah, no more than that. No more elaboration. No more elaboration.
So it has to be the imams were the splitters of knowledge, so they, with each imam, they would continue the tafsir and then give us all this information.
The first mufassir, who is the first mufassir, by the way? After the Prophet was Imam Ali. And who's after Imam Ali? The one during his time. Not later on our imams, during Abdullah ibn Abbas. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, let me say it in English, Imam Ali was the first. Abdullah ibn, who's Ibn Abbas, Najat? Who's Abdullah ibn Abbas?
The son of Abbas,
Exactly. Who's Abbas?
Imam Ali's brother?
The one who's in Karbala, we visited him?
No. Imam Ali's brother from...
Uncle, Imam Ali's uncle. The Prophet's uncle and Imam's Ali's uncle, Abbas. Abbas, of course, was on the side of the mushrikeen, you know, and he was captured in the Battle of Badr. He was fighting the Prophet. And the Prophet released him, and then he started changing, and then he moved to Medina. But in the beginning, Abbas didn't have good history or good beginning. Why? Because he was the body of whom? Abu Sufyan. They were two bodies, you know, together, playing together, drinking together, enjoying together. So the influence of his friend Abu Sufyan.
He was the step-uncle?
No, biological uncle of the Prophet, the brother of Abdullah. Abdullah was older than him.
The Prophet's father, he's his
The
brother.
Prophet's father, yeah. He was the Prophet's father's brother. Abdullah was the father of the Prophet. Abbas was his brother.
Cousins?
No, he's the uncle of the Prophet, but his son Abdullah is the cousin, first cousin, yeah. First cousin of the Prophet and first cousin of Imam Ali, and he was the second mufassir after Imam, because he got all his knowledge of the Quran. He says, everything I know about Quran is from my shaykh. Shaykh means master, teacher, or mentor. Ali ibn Abi Talib. Who was the third one, if you remember? Very knowledgeable in tafsir, very expert. Mas'ud, ahsant. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Who was number 4?
Which area was
Tafsir. We speak.
It means which area?
5 cities. He was in Medina.
Ubay ibn Ka'b.
Exactly. Ubay ibn Ka'b. Ubay ibn. And this Ubay remained loyal to Imam Ali alayhi salam. After many people shifted from Ahlul Bayt, they turned against them. They went to the caliphs. Ubay ibn Ka'b remained very loyal, despite the pressure on him. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud remained loyal to Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ali. Abdullah ibn Abbas remained loyal. Those are hardcore mufassirin of the Quran. Okay? So those are the very first people who started to explain the Quran. And all those books that are written by Mujahid and others are related to those teachers. They are their students. So the first generation who documented the tafsir, because tafsir, Najat, was verbal. The teacher comes, not like you, having pen and paper. They ask him about the ayah, so he gives the answer. So people would memorize. At that time, the memory was sharp, not unlike now. We forget. At that time, people would really memorize the hadith, the whole hadith, the whole sermon. You know, Imam Ali has long sermons in Nahj al-Balagha. Some people memorize them from the first time. Sharp, sharp memory. Nowadays, we don't have people with sharp. Nowadays, because of these gadgets and these, even with some people don't remember their phone numbers. Do you know that? He doesn't know his wife's phone number. I don't know my wife's phone number, believe me. If I lose this, I lose everything. Khalas. I don't know how to go home. But at that time, they used to depend on their memory. So it was, most of the tafsir was verbal. Started with this man when the tafsir became written and documented. They started to write it down in books, systematic, from the beginning of the Quran till the end of the Quran.
What man did you say, man?
This man, Mujahid. Do you remember we studied about Mujahid? Do you remember last year, my friends, or you forgot? Huh? So what did we say about him? Mujahid ibn Jabr. Mujahid ibn Najat, you have to write this because you were not there when we studied this. So Mujahid, and you also, Afsana, were not there. Yes, Mujahid ibn Jabr. Okay, this is his name. He lived 84 or 86, 84 years, yes. He lived 84 years. So he is from Mecca. What year he was born? 21. Ahsant. 21 he was born, and year 104 died. And he is the direct student of whom? Who is his mentor? His mentor. Exactly, Abdullah ibn Abbas. Abdullah ibn Abbas was his mentor, and he said, I reviewed the Quran 3 times, the entire Quran, 3 times, word by word, with my teacher, Abdullah ibn Abbas, to make sure that every translation of the Quran, every interpretation, every tafsir is correct. So I reviewed it 3 times with my mentor, Abdullah ibn Abbas. And he's really iconic figure. His book, the book of Mujahid, is an iconic book in the science of tafsir, and the earliest version of what type of tafsir? The documented tafsir. The one who puts the tafsir on papers, ta'leef, compilation, okay? So his tafsir was what? Tafsir ma'thur or aqli? Ma'thur, of course, because he has a mentor, Ibn Abbas, and Ibn Abbas is the student of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And then, of course, we have others who came after him. What is the problem with these types of tafsir, my friends? Of course, let me tell you that most of the Sunnis and the Shias, they depend, mufassirin, jurists, transmitters of hadith, leaders of madahib, they depend on Mujahid. If you read their books, an Mujahid, on the authority of Mujahid. And also the Shias. And he was loyal to Ahlul Bayt, this man. So he's one of the pillars of tafsir. And he's accepted by the vast majority of the mufassirin. Not just mufassirin, not just the exegists, but the transmitters of hadith, muhaddithin. Muhaddith is a transmitter of hadith. And even historians. What is the problem with these types of tafsir, the old ones?
They weren't filtered, etc.
Exactly, exactly. So sometimes, not just with Mujahid, with other names that I'm going to mention soon, it was compilation and collection. Let's call it collection. Unfiltered collections. Later generations came and found it to be problematic to leave the tafsir raw material. So you have to filter it. You have to cross-examine. And many of these also had Israelites in them, as we mentioned last night. So later on, tafsir developed into ones that was filtered, but not completely filtered. Because still it is really difficult to filter the tafsir. Why it is difficult? Why it is difficult to have a book that you say this is 100% authentic tafsir from the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt or the trusted Sahaba. Why?
It's hard to trace it directly. Many times there's missing chain.
Exactly. One of the problems is that the chain of narrators is missing, is not complete. The chain of narrators is missing. So you really cannot say this is 100% correct. We studied the problems with the ma'thur. The first problem we have with the ma'thur is sometimes the chain of narrators, one of them is dropped. So how you connect this to this? If this in the middle is missing, how? Or it's not dropped. One of them is unreliable. He had some problems, some issues. Not all of them are perfect. The problem is that you have 5 chain of narrators or 10. 9 of them are good. You trust them. One of them you don't trust.
Or how about tawatur? How many tawatur versus khabar or wahid is there?
This is another problem. Sometimes it depends, the tafsir depends on khabar al-wahid. Not tawatur. Doesn't have tawatur. Now we solved khabar al-wahid, we solved it, the isolated narration, we solved it in fiqh. We found a solution to it. What was the solution? In fiqh, in jurisprudence. You accept it, because if you don't accept it, you get stuck. You don't find an answer. So you must accept it. Because the Sharia said accept it. Sharia said, khabar al-wahid, if he's trustworthy, if he's trustworthy. But in tafsir, there is no need for you, because you are not stuck. Don't understand the Quran. What can I do for you? Don't understand it. If you don't understand the Quran, would you go to Jahannam or Jannah?
Inshallah, Jannah.
Billions of people are Chinese, Indians, Iranians, Africans. They don't understand Quran, but they go to Jannah. But if you don't understand the fiqh, how do you do your wudu? How do you do your prayers? How do you do your fasting? How do you do your zakat? How do you do your hajj? This is a problematic. Again, some scholars say they go to Jannah, even if your hajj is messy, 90% of the hujjaj, 100% of them they mess up in hajj or in their prayers. Or even tahara, even tahara. I see people here. He goes barefoot to the hammam, to the bathroom barefoot, and then he comes on the carpet. And his feet is wet. They lack the understanding of basic fiqh, basic tahara and najasa. They lack it, unfortunately. In their homes, many people, they have dogs in their homes. Dogs are playing with them and, their libas. But we say Allah is Arhamur Rahimi. What can we do, yani? If you make it difficult for people, then no one is going to survive. No one is going to survive. So later on they started the filtration, and then we had, my friends, tafsir, the most contemporary ones. Let me give you an example of the most contemporary tafsirs that are filtered and comprehensive too. In the Sunni tradition and the Shia tradition. In the Sunni tradition, which tafsir is the one that is, first of all, contemporary, and second, is filtered in the Sunni tradition? No, Ibn Kathir is Al-Manar. They love tafsir Ibn Kathir. Of course, Ibn Kathir and Tabari are hardcore Salafis. They used to, yeah.
Ibn Kathir was still.
No. Ibn Kathir is anti-Shia, Salafi. So tafsir al-Manar. Al-Manar in the Sunni tradition, Al-Manar, Rashid Rida, Egyptian. Al-Manar. Let me write it in English. Al-Manar. Or one, there is one N and two A's. Al-Manar. In the Shia tradition, which tafsir is comprehensive and filtered to some extent, and reliable, and comprehensive, contemporary, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, half a century, huh?
Not Wasa'il.
No, Wasa'il, book of hadith, don't get mixed. Yes, Muhammad Hussein al-Tabatabai. We have it downstairs. He wrote it in Arabic and then it was translated to Farsi. Al-Mizan, ahsant. The name of the book is Al-Mizan. Al-Mizan fi tafsir al-Quran. Okay. One of the tafsirs that are based on ma'thur, naqli, is tafsir Abu Hamza al-Thamali. It rings a bell, yes? Abu Hamza al-Thamali, who's he? He's a companion of, no, not Kumayl ibn Ziyad. Abu Hamza is the student of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. We read his dua Abi Hamza al-Thamali in the month of Ramadan. He has written an extensive book, Abu Hamza. His name is Thabit ibn Dinar. Abu Hamza Thabit ibn Dinar. Died 146. He was the disciple of Imam Sajjad, Ali Zayn al-Abidin, his son Muhammad al-Baqir, his son Ja'far al-Sadiq, his son Musa al-Kadhim. He stayed with 4 Imams. So imagine how much, he's not Sahabi, he's not a companion, but he was a companion of 4 Imams, and he based his tafsir Abu Hamza, on what he learned from the 4 Imams regarding the Quran. So when you read his book, this is the tafsir of Ahlul Bayt, the opinion of Ahlul Bayt. And then in his book is distinguished from others. How it is distinguished from others? From other tafasir, all tafasir?
It's not his word, no personal opinion in it?
No personal opinion. All others, no personal opinion. But how he is distinguished from them? Others, they had among them Israelites. This one, Israelites free. No, no, no. We are speaking about the old ones now. The old ones. No, Tabatabai doesn't have Israelites. No. We are speaking about the old ones. Do you remember, Umid? We said the old ones, the problem with the old ones, they were raw materials. So you can find anything in them. Collections, okay? But among them, this tafsir, which is filtered from the Israelites, because he's the student of 4 imams. And the imams are going to tell him which is which. So he learned the tafsir entirely from the 4 imams. It gave him a long period of time. When you see 4 imams, not just one. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, Ja'far al-Sadiq, Musa al-Kadhim. He's a disciple of 4 imams. So it allowed him to take the authentic, to put what is really authentic and avoid the superstitions from his book. And then of course there are other types of tafsir. And tomorrow we're going to focus on 3 or 4 examples, but we study them in depth. One of them is the most important tafsir in the Sunni tradition. We're going to study Ibn Kathir. We're going to study the Tabari. Tabari is called Imamul Mufassirin. Where was he born, Tabari? Tabaristan. Where is Tabaristan? No, Tabaristan. Mazandaran. Amul. In the city of Amul on the Caspian Sea. He was born there. But he lived in Baghdad and he died in Baghdad and he's buried in Baghdad. So he's Iranian by birth, Iraqi by death. He's nicknamed Imam al-Mufassirin, Tabari. Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. His book is very important, and there is a debate among the Shias whether he had Shia tendency or not.
I thought you just said he was Salafi. His tafsir is Salafi.
Some people consider him to be, but there is a debate whether he did this out of fear because he couldn't speak the truth, but inside him he was a pro Ahlul Bayt, because he comes to some important verses in the Quran. When I say important, it means they are landmarks. And he gives a pro Ahlul Bayt opinion. Because you know, at that time, unlike now we have a freedom. Nobody can persecute us because we are Shias. But this was not the case before. Before, if they know you are in Kufa, you are in Medina, you are in Baghdad, and you are a Shia, that's it, you are blacklisted.
He was during the Abbasid.
Huh?
During the Abbasid period?
Yeah. You are blacklisted. If you read Sunni books about Rijal, how they describe the biography of this, in some of them they say, وَكَانَ يَتَشَيَّعْ. He's a good man, noble man, honest man, but here's a problem, he has Shia tendency. He had Shia tendency. كَانَ يَتَشَيَّعْ. So it was a big problem. I tell you off the camera today, the parable, the equal to that today, off the camera, inshallah. So some of them inside, they were Shia, but they did not dare because of the persecution of the Sultan. They lose their status, they lose their living, they lose their library, they lose their work, and they lose their life. You know, Tabari, this man, he was buried at night because some people said we will excavate his grave because he's Shia. They buried him at night. Yeah. So don't look at yourself now. You know, it was much worse before. Much worse. Much worse before. It was a big liability. Being a Shia was a big liability. You are blacklisted. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.